Redevelopment Agency of Salt Lake City. We are going to begin the RDA meeting with welcoming you. Happy to see you all here, for those that are joining us in person and online. We hope you will continue to participate in whichever manner you feel most comfortable. We're going to move to item A2, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us for the pledge. As item B on the agenda, as a redevelopment agency board, we are at the RDA unfinished business item B1 regarding the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute to the interlocal agreement between Salt Lake City Corporation, the redevelopment agency of Salt Lake City, and the Utah Inland Port Authority. I will look for a motion.
Chair.
I move that the board adopt a resolution approving the First Amendment to the interlocal agreement with the Utah Inland Port Authority.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Dugan, Board Member Dugan, and a second by Board Member Lopez Chavez. Any discussion on this motion? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to call the questions. All of those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. I have it's a unanimous vote. I see Councilmember Young no present at this moment. Then moving on to the adjournment, this concludes our redevelopment agency of board meeting. Now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting and to convene as the Salt Lake City Council. Look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn as the Redevelopment Agency Board and convene as the Salt Lake City Council.
I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion to conclude the meeting and reconvene as the Salt Lake City Council. All those in favor say aye.
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 This motion carries. Now, Madam Chair, it's your turn.
We are now convened as the body of the Salt Lake City Council. Thank you again to everyone who is joining us tonight. Before we move through the agenda, I will explain our updated general comment registration process and remind everyone about the rules of decorum for council meetings. Individuals may register to comment on scheduled public hearing items until the hearing is closed. For the general comment section, we will accept signups until 7:30 p.m. The general comment section has been changed to 1 hour. If you're here to give general comments, not everyone who signed up may be able to speak. I would like to run through our meeting rules. These are designed so that we can conduct city business, ensure that the meeting is safe, orderly, and free from intimidation. We will not be giving multiple warnings about following the rules. To keep our reactions from affecting your ability to share your opinion freely, council members refrain from reacting or responding to allow everyone to share their opinions freely. When making your comments, please address the body and not any individual elected official. If you have a handout for the council, please do not approach the dais. Raise your hand and council staff will assist you. Council staff are available during or after the meeting to help you with any questions or information sharing. Avoid the use of threatening and discriminatory language. Do not insult others based on religion, ethnicity, race, color, gender, sexual orientation, or physical ability. Whether you agree or disagree with someone, clapping, cheering, shouting, booing, snapping, gesturing, obstructing, or discouraging others from commenting is not allowed. The full meeting rules are listed at the door, and our staff will post the link in Zoom. This brings us to item D2, approving the work session minutes of June 4th, 2024. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously with Young still absent. Our next item is D3. The council will consider adopting a joint ceremonial resolution with Mayor Mendenhall, recognizing Home Depot and its dedicated employees for their service to Salt Lake City. I'm going to turn the time over to Councilmember Pui, who will read the resolution.
This is a joint resolution of appreciation to Home Depot and its dedicated employees for their service to Salt Lake City. Whereas the City of Salt Lake recognizes the importance of community service and values the contributions of individuals and organizations that go above and beyond to make our city a better place to live. And whereas the Home Depot, a national leader in home improvements and construction supplies, has been a steadfast partner in supporting Salt Lake City through a serious service throughout the city, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to the betterment of our communities. And whereas the Home Depot has collaborated with the Salt Lake City Housing Authority to enhance the lives of our residents by providing their time, resources, and expertise to assist with various service projects in Salt Lake City Housing Authority properties. And whereas the Home Depot's dedication to serving those who have served our nation is commendable, as they have actively participated in projects benefiting veterans in our community, offering a helping hand to those who have sacrificed so much for our country. And whereas the Home Depot, in partnership with Salt Lake City, has played a significant role in the maintenance and beautification of the Japanese section of the International Peace Gardens, Jordan Park, Poplar Grove Park, Toffer Park, and other parks through the city, fostering an environment of tranquility, cultural appreciation, and community enjoyment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Salt Lake City Council and Mayor of Salt Lake City expresses our deepest gratitude and appreciation to Home Depot and its associates and employees for their outstanding commitment to our community and their unwavering support for projects that enrich the lives of our residents. Be it further resolved that the City of Salt Lake extends its heartfelt thanks to and recognition to the exemplary employees of Home Depot for their tireless efforts and dedication to service projects within our city.
Thank you, Councilmember Pui. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries. I'd like to welcome District Manager Chris Comerford and Store Manager George Preciado. Did I say that right, George? I got you, boo. Yeah, all right. With the Home Depot. They're here with us today to receive the resolution. Thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. So thank you, Council, for the opportunity for us to join together and help these communities out. There's an old quote that I kind of live by where it goes, "A man plants a tree knowing that he may never sit under the shade of it." I think we do that every day, and I think we need to find ways to do that within our communities, and you guys do that very well. So I'd love to continue the partnership that we do and across all districts. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I would like to add a quick note to this. A few years ago, when we reached out to Home Depot, it wasn't a common thing for us to ask for help with some of our parks and some of the deferred maintenance we had in some of the parks in my district and in the city. I was just blown away by the support, not only donating materials, which was a big amount of donation, but also the expertise that you brought to the table. Not only that, bringing hundreds of volunteer hours from your employees to our parks to paint them, to replace rotten wood, and making our parks, just inviting places like we deserve. So I'm humbled by your commitment to our city and to our residents, and to make the lives of our neighbors better. Not only you're a business, but your commitment to our community means a lot to us. So I wanted to make sure that this was on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
All right. Would you like to come up and...
Thank you so much.
All right, this brings us to the council public hearing section of our agenda. These are specific proposals before the council that require a public hearing. Your comments need to pertain to the hearing topic. If your comments go off topic, we will ask you to stop. This will serve as your only warning. If you would like to comment on these public hearing items today, we are accepting comments in person and online on Zoom. You can sign up to comment until the hearing is closed. If you need to speak with our staff, please raise your hand in the room or on Zoom, and a staff person will assist you. For those of you in Zoom, our staff person, London Kelly, can assist you with registration issues or technical questions. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling those who wish to comment based on the order we receive the names. If you're on Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. Each person will have 2 minutes, and we will call on each person who has signed up to speak. Just as a reminder, our goal is to create and keep a safe place for everyone to share and participate in the meeting. So please follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. Disruptions or threats to anyone's safety are not allowed. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or a disruption occurs, we will pause your comments to remind you about the rules before you continue. Our first public hearing, E1, is for a grant application for Summer Snacks for Youth Programs grant. Before we begin taking comments, I'll turn the time over to Sylvia Richards, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The city applies for and receives grants periodically, which help to support and fund some city programs. Each grant application is reviewed and then receives a public hearing, which gives the public an opportunity to comment on them. Tonight, as mentioned, there is one grant, the Utah State Board of Education Summer Snack Grant, which would reimburse the city for snacks provided to Youth City Summer Program participants. Again, this is an item for which the city has applied. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sylvia. We will now take comments related to this grant application. Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is no one registered to speak to this item.
Thank you. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and refer item E1 to a future consent agenda for action.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan and a second from Councilmember Pui. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries with, I believe, Councilmember Wharton now absent.
No, I'm an aye.
Oh,
Sorry.
thank you. That's unanimous then. Thank you. All right, our next item is E2 for the fiscal year 24-25 budget for the Capital Improvement Program. Before we begin taking comments, I'll first turn the time over to Ben Ludke, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction.
This year, there are 78 CIP projects being reviewed by the council. The total requested funding is $92 million, which is more than double the available funding of $43 million. Note that the available funding comes from 8 different sources, most of which are limited to certain types of projects. The funding log is available as attachment 2. It shows how much funding each project requested and how much was recommended by the Resident Advisory Board and by the mayor, and the funding sources that would be used. The council has another briefing and public hearing for CIP scheduled for August 13th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. We'll begin taking comments. Taylor, please call the first commenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There will be about 10 people here to speak to this item. The first will be N Canada, followed by Joe Bateman, and then Steve Verno. And you may now unmute.
Hi, I'm back. So I just wanted to say that, I really like the, I forget what it's called, Livable Streets initiative that I think is under CIP. And I would love to see, and especially in the ballpark district, more walkable streets. I live in C9 Flats, and I always try to walk to Target, but there's not really, I know they just updated it, but there's not really good crossing there still. So, just increasing the bike capacity, protected bike lanes, and continuing that good work that's being done for the streets would be awesome. Thank you.
Next will be Joe Bateman, followed by Steve Verno, and then Helen Reynolds. Joe, you may now unmute. Okay, Joe has left the meeting, so we will move on to Steve Verno, followed by Helen Reynolds, and then Cindy Cromer. Steve is here in person.
Hello, my name is Steve Verno, and I'm a constituent of District 6 and the CIP applicant for the Harvey Milk Boulevard Neighborhood Visibility Project. I'm also speaking today on behalf of Equality Utah, as well as East Liberty Park, Central 9th Ballpark, Liberty Wells, and the Granary Community Councils. Our organizations feel that Salt Lake City's LGBTQ+ community should receive more support in public spaces through placemaking, art, and public awareness. This project will help to create visibility and show needed support for the LGBTQ+ community. We would ask that you consider our request for artwork installations on Harvey Milk Boulevard, and that you consider approval of funds for at least a portion of the project, which would provide banner arms on Harvey Milk Boulevard. 27 banner arms would be placed in the heart of the 4 business districts. We have secured private donations to fund the banners to be placed on the poles if they were installed. Salt Lake City encourages and welcomes all residents and visitors to embrace our LGBTQ+ community with equality and unity, and provide a place to enjoy life and live and work in peace and safety and love. Providing additional visibility creates a crucial sense of individual belonging and security for LGBTQ+ people. It is also important to show tourists and visitors that Salt Lake City is a vibrant, diverse community and a wonderful place to visit and live. In our current political environment, it is even more critical that we recognize and provide visibility to our marginalized communities and represent our city as a safe and welcoming space for all people. Thanks for your continued support.
Next will be Helen Reynolds, followed by Cindy Cromer, and then Richard Lehman. Helen, you may now unmute.
Hi there. My application is for shade at the city playgrounds. It's a thing that I grew up in Australia, so we always had shade at all the playgrounds. And to come out here and it be 100 degrees every day, it makes the playgrounds unusable. And it's one of the things that is accessible to everybody, despite their socioeconomic background or where they live. I would love to see them covered so that anybody all over the city and every district gets to have a park that is shaded all day. And I think this is made even more important in today's front page article on the all-time heat record that the University Health Burn Center and the Salt Lake City Fire Department both warned residents to be careful around common heat hazards in the hottest part of the day, including surfaces in playgrounds. And I think we put a lot of money into, you put a lot of money into building these playgrounds, and it's really a bummer that they can't be used between 10 a.m. and about 5 p.m., 6 p.m. each day. So I'd love to see money put to this so we can have shade and all the kids can enjoy it all day. Thanks.
Next will be Cindy Cromer, followed by Richard Lehman, and then Skylar Westerdahl. Cindy is here in person.
This afternoon, I sent you a photograph from the 1920s of the Liberty Park greenhouse. It's taken before the Kew Gardens type canopy was removed to salvage the steel for the war effort. I remember those days. I heard about them from my mother. They used to save the foil on the gum wrappers for the war effort. So I thought back to those stories I heard as a child when I heard about this canopy. At any rate, I want to urge you to support the recommended funding for the greenhouse in Liberty Park. In recent decades, we've seen the rebirth of Tracy Aviary. It's stunning. With new buildings and the renovation of the Chase Mill and the Wilson Pavilion, We've seen the construction and now the redesign of the Rotary Playground, accessible Rotary Playground. And we've seen the location of the U City program in a historic building in the park. The greenhouse, however, appears not to have received the same kind of reinvestment that other structures in the park have received. And it is essential to have this greenhouse to propagate drought-tolerant plants and to promote their propagation within the city and beyond. And the greenhouse, activities in the greenhouse could be integrated into other activities in the park. So I urge you to fund this. This is the second year that the application has come before you. Thank you.
Next will be Richard Lehman, followed by Skylar Westerdahl, and then Alicia Klein. Richard is here in person.
Hello, I'm a co-author of the Parks Restroom CIP study, which it appears may well be approved by the council this year, which we're thankful for. But since that's been in the process, other groups have come to council asking to leverage this study to other areas of the city. I think that's great. There are probably 4 distinct areas we should consider: parks, downtown, Central City, and the Jordan River Trail. I want to make the point that a one-size-fits-all solution does not exist, and I'm concerned about the expansion of the study leading to that. The current guidance for the city dates to 2013, and it's one solution for every place, and it obviously doesn't work now. And that the parks element of a study shouldn't be stinted in a expansion, which again, I think looking at the city comprehensively in terms of restroom needs is excellent. But just that I want to make clear that the appropriateness of differentiated solutions should be at the top of that consideration. And I will be providing additional written comments. And I do want to say that the addition of other groups in the process made me realize that the parks have a similar issue of needing differentiated solutions between regional parks and other parks. So again, thank you, council and the executive branch for the support of this proposal, and I hope to be able to participate in public meetings going forward on it.
Next will be Skylar Westerdahl, followed by Alicia Klein, and then John Crancroft. Skylar is here in person.
Hello, I'm speaking on behalf of the Westminster Urban Forestry and Traffic Calming Measure, CIP. If there's one thing I hate more than public speaking, it is hot, dusty roads and speeding traffic. The Westminster area that I'm speaking of is a mixed low-income and single-family area, as well as the route of the Salt Lake City Marathon. And it's been, I think, overlooked a bit in regard to Salt Lake City's urban forestry and traffic calming measures and initiatives. The goal of overall these initiatives is to reduce urban heat islands, and it is so hot right now, as we all can agree. Reduce energy consumption and promote active transportation and safety. I think this initiatives will contribute to all of those goals, as well as really help mitigate a serious problem that we have in this area in regards to traffic. My neighbor has been hit a couple of times, which is a lot, even just one time to be hit by a car. He's okay. There is another neighbor, unfortunately, whose 12-year-old boy did get hit and is still dealing with serious injuries several years ago. And so it's a pretty kind of emerging dangerous area that I think deserves some attention. So the initiatives would be 2 parts. One, consulting to identify the best and most cost-effective approach to achieve the specified goals that I just outlined. And then later, the funding to implement these recommendations. I love that the CIP process is a way for just any old person to come up and provide a small perspective on ways to help the city. And so I hope you'll consider this small little way to help my area. Thanks.
Next will be Alicia Klein, followed by John Crancroft, and then Sarah Woolsey. Alicia is here in person.
Hi, my name is Alicia Klein, and I submitted the CIP grant for the 200 East, 1910 South proposal. I'm here with my family and a neighbor. We've had many emails sent in for comment supporting the public art at this intersection. We also have the support of the Liberty Wells Community Committee. This intersection has this cement triangle. The volunteer trees are just completely out of control. There's garbage in the trees. Another thing is that it doesn't represent the eclectic community that we have. And our neighborhood the housing prices have increased significantly, and this doesn't represent our neighborhood. One thing I do want to say, we've lived there for 25 years, and it has been a great source of embarrassment to have people come to our house and see this area being completely out of control. I did make a suggestion on what public art to put there. I did speak to someone from the city, and he said he asked me if I was open to less, to more affordable options, and anything would be an improvement. So that's all I'm asking, is just an improvement. It doesn't have to be anything specific. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Okay, thank you very much.
Next will be John Cracroft, followed by Sarah Woolsey, and then Amy and Phoebe Klein. John is here in person.
Good evening. My name's John Cracroft, Salt Lake native, and I am the applicant for the Curtis Park Reimagined CIP application. And I think this is an important application for the council to consider for a few reasons. And I'll speak to, I think, maybe what is the primary. First, the park is immediately adjacent to Foothill Village Shopping Center, and the owners are underway on a major remodeling of the entire shopping center, creating a patio to the west to the public land, which is Curtis Park. They have indicated they are willing to participate in fund matching and contribute to this project and help activate this space, this public land, and this park. This seems like a unique opportunity to leverage the private sector for the benefit of the community. And second, with regards to timing, this park was last updated in 2001, making the playground equipment 23 years old. It's in decent shape. However, part of it is boarded up and unusable. And I believe there's a priority already underway in the public lands to make these parks that are older than 20 years old a priority. So I think that fits along in that regard as well. And then kind of jokingly, my 3 daughters hound me for this like every week, especially now with the warm weather. So if you could throw me a bone here and make me look good, that would be great.
And next will be Sarah Woolsey. Sarah, you may now unmute.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Sarah Woolsey. I am with Friends of Fairmont Park. I live in District 7, and I'm here to speak in support of the citywide park restroom planning study and Fairmont restroom conceptual design. We are interested in the whole city having world-class access to world-class restrooms and starting with our parks. Our CIP is asking that we look at what kind of restrooms are in our parks, and with the increased population and use in many of our parks, including Fairmont Park, there are probably better designs that might accommodate all the kinds of users. In my park, there's soccer and pickleball and lots of folks that are accessing the park, just coming through as runners, and then my volunteers. We spend an hour or 2 in the park and want to have a restroom that's available. What we notice is that with current use, sometimes the restrooms cannot be cleaned properly and are closed down. The other day, we were volunteering, and a gentleman who had rented one of the pavilions was unable to have a restroom accessible for him there. So we're looking for great ideas, looking at other big cities, having a design plan that benefits not just Fairmont, but all city parks, and then slowly finding funding to implement that. So again, we have usable, accessible restrooms at all of our parks that meet the needs of the parks and match the use levels and the kind of users. So we ask for your support. We're excited to see continued support of parks, clean restrooms for all Utah, all Salt Lake City citizens. And we thank you for your time.
That was the final registered commenter for this item.
Thank you, Taylor. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and hold another public hearing on August 13th.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan, a second from Councilwoman Lopez Chavez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. This brings us to our potential action items section. Item F1 is a resolution for the Capital City Revitalization Zone Participation Agreement. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt the resolution endorsing the Capital City Revitalization Zone project area and the participation agreement between Salt Lake City and Smith Entertainment Group. I further move the council request a report from the city's financial advisors on financing options, including bonding to fully implement the 2021 Japantown Design Strategy infrastructure upgrades and enhancements, and that the administration recommend a preferred funding option. It is the intent of the council to consider these funding options for potential action this fiscal year. I further move, in order to ensure an efficient development process on this transformational project, the city and SEG commit to continue working with each other on the following issues and commit to memorializing these in future development agreements. Establish a construction mitigation process, recognizing the likely disruption of the flow of pedestrian and vehicular traffic and the potential impact that may have on residents and businesses in the downtown. SEG will have a hotline or central point of contact to address construction issues. This will include a hotline and/or ombudsman who would serve as a central point of contact in coordination between Smith Entertainment Group, Salt Lake City, property owners, and the public. Their role would be to address concerns, answer questions, and help mitigate any negative impacts on local businesses during construction of the entertainment district, including but not limited to pedestrian access, sidewalk availability, coverage, or any other necessary remediations. Prioritization of transit development, the city will work with SEG and UTA to prioritize the development of programs and incentives such as the Salt Lake City's Tickets for Transit program that improve public transportation options and promote ridership into the entertainment district and downtown Salt Lake City. The SEG liaisons outlined in the participation agreement will include in their report to the city the steps and progress they have made to maximize transit opportunities related to the district and future regional connections into downtown. Comprehensive planning process for all phases. A thorough and inclusive planning process is essential for the entertainment district. This process should involve outreach to all stakeholders, including the public and city stakeholders, to collaboratively create and develop plans for this area with an emphasis on design that maximize opportunities for pedestrian access, connectivity, and walkability.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Lopez Chavez, a second from Councilmember Pui. Before we take action on this next item, or I open to points of personal privilege, I want to highlight some key points. First, this is not a decision that anyone takes lightly. This is the result of months of tireless negotiations with Smith Entertainment Group to ensure the potential project benefits Salt Lake City as a whole. Second, we recognize that the draft agreement has not been available for very long. We appreciate the public's effort in digesting it quickly. Third, the state legislature established this process and timeline for us in Senate Bill 272. This is our good faith effort to comply with all statutory mandates given to us. Fourth, today's vote is the first of many steps required to realize the proposed district. It sends the participation agreement to the state's Revitalization Zone Committee for input. Within the next 30 days, if the committee approves the agreement, it returns to the council for a final vote on the agreement and the 0.5% sales tax increase. Fifth, we acknowledge that many conversations about the proposed district have yet to happen. We are working continuously with our partners at the county and the state to do their parts in good faith as regards all concerned constituencies. We will provide support as requested and appropriate. We thank members of the public who have taken the time to provide input in any number of ways. With that, I'm assuming there's some points of personal privilege before we move to a vote.
We'll do it after.
Who would care to go first? Councilmember Wharton, sorry, I looked away from my screen.
Thank you, Council Chair. I just want to share publicly how thankful I am to everyone who participated in this critical process that will greatly impact our city, particularly our city attorney, Katie Lewis, and her team. I also want to thank the residents who provided invaluable feedback to help inform our efforts. While the state legislation sets forth a very short timeline for this process, our negotiation efforts were exhaustive. City staff and elected officials push hard in every direction to secure the best possible deal for Salt Lakers. This agreement is about more than the Jazz or the new NHL team. This monumental investment will generate economic activity for surrounding businesses, activate underutilized spaces, and help fund critical city services. It creates a new revenue stream for housing and other core city needs. It creates new workforce training and youth programming. It helps address some of the historic wrongs done to Japantown. It ensures safe and inclusive access to amenities and green space, and it preserves all options for connecting to an artistic and convention space in our cultural core. I truly believe the proposed agreement is a good deal for Salt Lake City, even though it doesn't necessarily address every point and every wish that the public expressed. But I would not support this agreement if I didn't feel that it was a good deal for all of the city, not just the people who are going to use and interact in this space. I know there's a lot that we still need to consider about the overall district. There will be other votes and other decisions in the coming months, but I'm confident that we have done our due diligence to ensure this proposed agreement is a step in the right direction. We now look to our partners at the county and the state to continue the momentum and connect the other puzzle pieces. As a new father, I am even more acutely aware of the impact our decisions today will have on future generations. I'm making my decision with their future in mind and an ongoing commitment to securing a prosperous and thriving Salt Lake City for all of us who call it home. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Wharton. Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to echo what Councilmember Wharton said, and congratulations, Dad. And thank the council staff, the mayor's staff, the city attorney's hard work and her staff, and also all the residents and their inputs. The dialogue has been open, and we've been working together. We may not all agree with it, but we worked together, and we came to an agreed upon position. This, and I think I'm going to repeat some of it from what Councilmember Wharton said, but this is the first step. It's a transformational step, but it's opening the city. It's improving the flow of people and commerce through the city. It's tearing down walls, and it's providing multiple benefits to the city residents. So I'm excited about moving forward, but also knowing we have a number of steps to continue. Convention Center, a Bravenel Hall, 300 West, 100 South, and a development agreement. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of collaboration to be done. And if we do it together with that vision of improving our downtown neighborhood and our city in general, which then would improve our state, we're going to move and go places. So thank you for everyone's participation, and I will look forward to the participation over the coming year as we move forward. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Wharton. Councilmember Motto.
Sure, we can just go down the line. I've been thinking a lot about what I'd like to say tonight, and I started writing this long statement about ticket fees and urban design and economic impact, but I think I'll just keep my comments a little more personal and focus on Japantown tonight. I've been thinking a lot about my dad through this process as I've been fighting for Japantown. My dad and I didn't share the same views on very many things, really. We didn't have a lot of the same interests. He never told me in words, at least, that he was supportive of my choice to live as openly as a gay man. We certainly didn't line on politics, but we did share a deep love and respect for our Japanese American heritage. My dad was born in Utah in 1942. His parents, my grandma and grandpa, left their life in California and voluntarily moved to Utah to avoid being incarcerated in one of the World War II American concentration camps. My grandma was pregnant with him while they made that dangerous journey here to restart their lives. When I launched my campaign in 2021, I did so in the parking lot of the Sage Farm Japanese American Market at 1515 South Main Street in my district. I chose that location because when I was growing up, my grandmother worked there. She made the delicious bento lunch boxes that they still sell. And that's the market through which I tasted the first tastes of my own heritage. However, Sage Farm was not originally a District 5 business. It was originally located on 100 South in the block between Main Street and West Temple. But after the destruction of the majority of Japantown through eminent domain in the 1960s, it moved to the Ballpark neighborhood. I'm so personally grateful that I've had the honor to serve on the City Council at this particular time. In November 2021, a month before my dad died, he came to my election night watch party and congratulated me on my win before he quickly snuck out. I think he probably had mixed feelings about his liberal, gay, Democrat son serving in elected office, but I have to believe that if he was still here today, he'd be proud of what we've accomplished for Japantown and within this participation agreement. I need to share some gratitude, first for Council Chair Petro and my other council colleagues, Mayor Mendenhall, for understanding how important this is and backing me up on the city's asks related to Japantown. Thank you to Mike Mon and the Smith Entertainment Group for listening honestly and engaging, acknowledging that Japantown is an asset to your project and not a detriment. And thank you to, of course, our city staff and our city attorney's office and Katie Lewis specifically for working through the details of this participation agreement. But perhaps most importantly, I want to say thank you to all of you, the Japanese American community who is here tonight, particularly the members and leaders of the Japanese Church of Christ and the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple. I didn't grow up in either of your church communities, but I do consider myself part of the Japanese American community, and I want to say thank you for trusting me throughout this process, for letting me speak for the Japanese American community and advocate for these things. I know we didn't get everything we wanted in this participation agreement, but please stay at the table. We have a lot more work to be done and many more opportunities to fight for Japantown. And I just hope that you feel as encouraged as I do tonight about what we were able to accomplish in this and the future that we have for Japantown. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mano. Councilmember Young, I just remembered to look back at the screen. Do you have any personal privilege you'd like to exercise tonight?
No, I've made my comments. I appreciate that opportunity, Chair.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lopez Chavez?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take a quick moment of personal privilege to recognize much deliberation and the careful consideration of this vote, which many of my colleagues know. I'm really excited to support the Capital City Revitalization Zone. It's been a really difficult decision, but I want to make certain that we're claiming our place in enhancing our already great downtown that has already hosted sports, entertainment, culture, and convention, and will continue to do so in such a greater capacity. Of course, thank you to our staff, and thank you to Katie Lewis for guiding us in this conversation, and to our city leaders, Mayor Mendenhall and Chair Petro, for showing me grace and for allowing me to help shape our downtown. I greatly appreciate your consideration. And thank you to our stakeholders, SEG and Mike Mon, for choosing to make downtown Salt Lake City your permanent home to both NBA and NHL. Thank you to our constituents, many of which are in this room today, for sharing their concerns and the opportunities they see in the public benefits that will support us citywide. When I came into office, I immediately knew that we had to support the Jazz and step up to support this transformational project, but most importantly, to support the downtown in achieving its long-term goals of connecting our east-west communities, promoting walkability and encouraging the regional transit opportunities, and to create another prominent corridor that will replace the egregious acts that disconnected our city from places of belonging. My colleagues and I have stood steadfast to create public benefits and legislative intents to ensure the success of this entertainment district, to Japantown, and the existing businesses and communities of downtown. I know I'm personally committed to its long-term success, and I look forward to future conversations about the different phases of development of the district. 30 years from now and longer, I know we'll look back at this chapter of Salt Lake City's history and remember the countless hours of negotiation and leadership that was necessary to unite the downtown and create this coordinated vision. And it's a great honor to represent the constituents of this district and know that this decision is not made in vain, but in support of Salt Lakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilmember Pui.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to, I've been writing notes through the whole process for a little while now, and I sort of go about it from every different direction. But I want to talk to my neighbors, and not only my neighbors in my district, but the families in the city that, will hear snippets about this and hear some of the headlines that said, sales tax increase, and what it does mean for my own bills, and how is it affecting us making ends meet. And representing District 2 on the west side, where the majority of my neighbors are working 2 or 3 jobs sometimes to make ends meet. It's not an easy decision to talk about sales taxes and increases of sales taxes. And it wasn't ever, I would say, anybody in this body took this as a granted or took it as an easy discussion. I'm thankful that Senate Bill 272 remove groceries from the sales tax increase. Groceries are not included in this bill, which to me it would have been a deal breaker. It would have been a no-go from the beginning. Yet many of my neighbors will still, argue, and that the impacts on them will be big. And many will wonder why sports arenas over all the other things that we have in our city as challenges. And I want to talk to them about that our downtown is all of us. The success of downtown is the success of every district in the city. If our downtown dies, and it does across the nation, many of them are dying, reflects in all sorts of bad ways for our local economy, for attracting new businesses, for high-paying jobs, for sales taxes, for taxes for our city, and being able to pay for our roads and keeping our basic necessities. It's almost like a balloon, the most horrible domino effects that affects everything in the negative. Keeping our downtown thriving and inviting for everyone is key to our city. But yet, we had an opportunity here to negotiate some public benefits and define between us, between this city and SEG, what those public benefits are in exchange for this increase. And I just point of, I tend to sometimes jump on my points, but this is an important one. This process, while imperfect, and we didn't choose this process. This is a bill, it's a Senate bill that happened this year. It's a process that kept this mayor, kept this council chair, and kept this council at the table, negotiating on your behalf. And that, while it might seem irrelevant, it is an important piece. It kept us fighting for things that you elected us for, to talk about the downtown, to talk about our safety, to talk about our roads, to talk about affordable housing, to talk about connectivity. It kept us at the table to negotiate this back and forth. And I still struggle with the challenges that we have ahead. But I want to just dream big about what our downtown, what this will bring to our downtown. I want this to be bring us pride. I want this place to bring us an opportunity for all of us, even our families and many of my neighbors of color that enjoy the simple things and the free things of our downtown, walking in our sidewalks, enjoying the public spaces, walking around a beautiful church and a beautiful open garden, and all of these amenities that we deserve better. Reconnecting these two chunks of downtown that have been broken, and bringing about fixing some of the wrongs that we did to a whole community, like the Japanese community. It really was an opportunity that it was hard to miss. And I understand that there is a lot of pieces that are still unknown. There's a lot of pieces that are still complicated, but I want to reassure everyone that this city, and there's many women in this city, and I just want to highlight the leadership of our mayor, our council chair, Petro, and Katie Lewis, and Jennifer Bruno, and all our council staff, and all these incredible women that fought to the teeth and negotiated with a good partner to try to push back and forth about what is the public benefit. And I'm thankful to be here today. While I might disappoint some of you by supporting this, I think this opportunity will never come again to us. And a dying downtown is the worst that could happen to all of our districts, including my district. So that is my moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. I said my piece during the work session, but when all of us were sworn into office, we promised to execute the duties of our office with fidelity. And this is one of those moments where we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say we've done that. So with that, I have a motion from Councilmember Lopez Chavez, a second from Councilmember Pui. We've had ample discussion. I'd like to call the vote now. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? It passes unanimously. With that, we're going to move on to questions to the mayor from the City Council. Are there any questions for the mayor? And Mayor and Rachel, thank you for being here with us today. I think we've said everything that we could lately, so thank you for being here. This now brings us to the general comment portion of our agenda. Welcome. You are now welcome to comment on any item of interest. If you're joining us after 7:30 and missed the opportunity to sign up, staff has written comment cards for you. Please raise your hand if you need one of those. Before we begin taking comments, we'd like to emphasize our rules that any behavior that is threatening, disruptive, or creates an unsafe environment will not be tolerated. When we are not able to maintain these rules, we've had members of the public feel intimidated and leave the meeting. So if any of the rules are not being followed, we will ask staff to assist you out of the meeting. If this standard is not being observed, we will call a recess. As a reminder for those joining on Zoom, London Kelly from our staff will moderate our Zoom and message you with any questions about your registration. If you need assistance, raise your hand and select London from the list of participants. Please limit your messages to technical issues and minimal informational updates. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling those who wish to comment in the order of registration or collected comment cards. If you are on Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. If you're in person, please feel free to come up and stand in line when you hear your name called. Please avoid disruptions so that we can have as many people speak during this hour as possible. The host will announce time at the 2-minute mark, and your microphone will be muted. If you're unable to finish your comment, please share the rest via email, mail, or call our office. Contact information is listed at slccouncil.com. Please remember to follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or disrupts the meeting, we will pause your comments to remind you about the rules before you continue. When making your comments, please direct them to the body, not any single elected official. Our goal is to maintain safe and orderly meeting and to hear from as many of you as possible over the next hour. Taylor, you may begin with our first comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First will be Scott Johnson, followed by Jamie Iwamoto, and then James Loomis. Scott is here in person.
Scott? It appears Scott may have left.
We will move on to Janie Iwamoto, followed by James Loomis, and then Patrick Demo. Janie is here in person.
Thank you. I wanted to say some thank yous tonight. I wanted to thank Council Chair Petro and council members, and also in your role as RDA board for your passion and commitment to Japantown. Thank you to Mayor Mendenhall, starting with real efforts with backing of funding for the initial study for the streetscape with GSBS, and now with the tax increment and other funds starting this year, your commitment to see this through fully and with a far sooner completion than imagined. Thank you. Alongside, thank you to the RDA team and city staff. You have all been great partners through the years. Thank you to SEG, Mike Mon specifically for listening. The garden was a project while I was on the Salt Lake County Council, and back then it was a place of honor, but importantly as a buffer for traffic. But now, most importantly, the only space where there is no height that will impede light shining onto the Japanese Church of Christ Chapel, which again is 100 years old this year and is a historic landmark. We will need your continued commitment with Salt Lake County to honor this space and with the state as it relates to 300 West and alcohol-related issues. Our community's most recent effort started 25 years ago. It was pushed me into public service with the county and state. And in honoring those that came before us, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to Judge Raymond Uno. Despite experiencing Japantown's destruction, he loved our city, our county, and our state, and he believed in the dream of a revitalized Japantown and a more inclusive space for all of us. Thank you so much.
Next will be James Loomis, followed by Patrick Demo, and then Jan Aramaki. James is here in person.
Hello, members of the council. I apologize. I'm here to advocate for our CIP proposal, and I got put under general comments. Oops. But here I am, and I would like to advocate for our proposed Wasatch Community Gardens food forest on the Jordan River Parkway Trail on the land immediately to the south of the Ogwai People's Orchard Garden on the Jordan River Trail. We envision this food forest to be a public access garden where those visiting the trail are free to explore, enjoy, learn, and self-harvest fresh seasonal produce from the site. Cities such as Denver, Seattle, and Austin have implemented quite successful food forest projects, and we all know those are lesser cities to our own. Wasatch Community Gardens has a solid track record of stewardship in Salt Lake City with our community gardens and job training farm. This project would be a partnership between Wasatch Community Gardens, Ogwai People's Orchard and Garden, the University of Utah's new Center for Pacifica and Indigenous Knowledges, and Spark Environmental Justice Lab. We understand there has been some contention over the current Agwai Garden, and Wasatch Community Gardens was specifically invited to participate in this area to help facilitate that garden coming into compliance with city policies. The Food Forest CIP is a critical component of us answering the city's ask. The CIP funding would also provide a proper dedicated water source for Agwai. And just of note, this is an ask at the minimum amount for $50,000. Thank you.
Next will be Patrick Dimmow, followed by Jan Aramaki, and then Andrew Marwick. Patrick is here in person.
Hey, I'm also like James. I'm here for a CIP project. So I'm requesting City Council's endorsement of the project, CIP project called Equal Grounds, which proposes to build a calisthenics area in either Liberty Park, Sugar House Park, or Pioneer Park. The goal is to provide everyone with an equal and free opportunity for strength, fitness, and community building. A few numbers for you. In Salt Lake City, 12.8% are without health insurance, 13.7% live below the poverty line, 8.7% live with some form of disability. 28.66% come from diverse backgrounds. Since 2020, Salt Lake City has seen a 1.4% growth rate year over year, a result of 40% of that being from racial and ethnic minorities, and then 33% they're projecting in 2060 for the population to be of diverse populations. So with this growth is the need for diversity and extracurricular activities for people from all walks of life to interact and engage. Why fund the Equal Grounds project? Number one, it enhances City Council's 2024 initiative around infrastructure and community development, creating a space and additional opportunity for community goers throughout diverse growing city to afford and engage in opportunities of fitness. Number two, it also enhances the City Council's initiative regarding community engagement and inclusivity. There are over 1,000, number three, there are over 1,000 calisthenics parks within the U.S., and they have successfully been integrated within larger community initiatives around wellness and health. Number three, during Mayor Mendenhall's speech, Salt Lake City State of the City address, she stated, when I think of what makes a city great, it includes city built on all generations, families to connect outside and innovative. Lastly, as a coach at an addiction recovery gym veteran, and also coming from a first generation single parent apartment.
Line. Next will be Jan Aramaki, followed by Andrew Marwick, and then Ricklin Nobis. Jan is here in person.
Good evening, council and mayor staff and council staff. I'm just here to say thank you so much. I never thought I'd be a Salt Lake resident to reap the benefits of your hard work, but my heart is in Japantown. So thank you for keeping that on the forefront. I know what it takes for you to give attention to something that's being pushed through so quickly. I've seen it, I've lived it for my 27 years when I worked for the city, but thank you for the mayor's office, RDA staff, council members, Darren and Eva for being there, and Petro for being in our meetings, and I know Jim Bruno and our council staff work so hard. So thank you. I am so honored and so humbled that I know how hard you work for the city and what tough decisions you have before you. And thank you for letting me reap that benefit. Thank you.
Next will be Andrew Marwick, followed by Ricklin Nobis, and then Mark Ward. Andrew, you may now unmute.
It appears they're not here.
Andrew, you may now unmute.
Oh, okay. Andrew Marwick, Glendale, Arizona. It was a 20-year nightmare for Glendale, going from 7-0 in favor of building an arena for the Coyotes in 2001 to evicting them 7-0 in 2021. When Glendale agreed to invest $200 million in a hockey arena for the Coyotes in 2001, Steve Ellman, owner of the Coyotes, agreed to invest $600 million in a shopping and entertainment district, Westgate City Center. When the Coyotes Arena opened in 2003, Westgate was nothing more than a dirt field. Ellman's promises weren't kept, and it looked like Glendale would be stuck with a hockey arena surrounded by cotton fields. Steve Ellman was only able to finance and start construction on Westgate after construction of the NFL Cardinals Stadium was underway and a Super Bowl awarded. In 2009, the Coyotes filed bankruptcy and lenders foreclosed on Westgate. Glendale was forced to raise its sales tax to the highest of any city in Arizona to pay for the Coyotes arena and subsidies to keep the Coyotes in Glendale. Glendale Mayor Jerry Wires, council members such as Ian Hugh and Joyce Clark can fill you in with a lot more details about how risky it is for a city in a non-traditional hockey market to invest in NHL hockey. Glendale is a larger city than Salt Lake by 60,000 residents. Salt Lake can ill afford to invest $1 billion tax dollars in such a high-risk, low-return project that hasn't come close to being clearly defined. There's a much higher priorities for Salt Lake City to invest in. The Salt Lake City segment of the Wasatch Fault hasn't moved in 1,400 years, and it's overdue for a magnitude 7 earthquake. Salt Lake City needs to invest in things like that and the other things people have talked about with the CIP. Thank you.
Next will be Ricklin Novice, followed by Mark Ward, and then Tony Hughes. Ricklin is here in person.
Naive, but I offer these remarks in regards that there will be multiple votes taken down the road as this project unfolds. I'm here to speak in support of Abravanel Hall, of which I've heard no mention tonight. I served as keyboard with the Utah Symphony for over 26 years, and I performed on the stage of Abravanel Hall many, many times. I've also had the opportunity to perform in other concert halls here in the United States and in Europe and in South America. Abravanel Hall is an absolute gem with few other performance spaces even coming close in comparison. Other halls sharing the acoustic magnificence of Abravanel Hall might be, for example, the Musikverein in Vienna or the Royal Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. I've read the Entertainment District Participation Agreement, and I would like to suggest, to be brief, that we offer down the road specific language that mentions either a percentage or dollar amount of funds to go toward a renovation of Abravanel Hall, and that such funding is contingent that the hall will remain on site within the SECC district in its present performance hall form and location. Now, I was telling a friend of mine I was going to come here this evening, and he offered me this analogy. He said to tear down that hall and replace it, as I understand might have been suggested, would be to be like taking a Stradivarius violin, smashing it to bits under one's feet, and offering in its place a cheap $900 million knockoff. Thank you.
Next will be Mark Ward, followed by Tony Hughes, and then Lori White. Mark is here in person.
My name is Mark Ward, and I'm a member of the Japanese Christian Church, Japanese Church of Christ. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for listening to the Japantown requests and including many of them in the participation agreement. I'd like to speak to the next decision that's coming before you, which will be the zoning changes for consideration by the City Council in the near future. We recognize that the renderings of the entertainment, sports, entertainment, cultural, and convention district are conceptual at this point. But the current rendering shows one residential building east of the Japanese Church of Christ property. That's an extremely tall building. And to the north, there is a 2 to 4 story building. And the Struve building to the west is not currently in the renderings, but at some point in the future, that may become a new building immediately adjacent to our property. So with the proposed D4 zoning changes, all three of those future structures could be unlimited height. Although the land use plan in the participation agreement refers to buildings which may exceed 40 stories down to 25 stories. However, it states that taller buildings may be appropriate when they are near entertainment venues. So the Japanese Church of Christ could end up at the bottom of a well of tall buildings immediately next to its property. So when you're considering the zoning proposal for new or rebuilt structures in the district, please consider reasonable height restriction.
Next will be Tony Hughes, followed by Lori Wyke, and then Art Brunner. Tony is here in person.
Sorry, I can't come up front. Last week, I had a visit from a Salt Lake City enforcement officer that told me that after spending $22,000 on turf that I had to remove it because the city did not allow me to have turf. And in my hand, I have a House Bill 95 that states, this bill prohibits certain government or private entities from requiring a property owner or resident to meet certain landscaping requirements. That's a House bill. That's not from the city, that's from the state of Utah. So what I'd like to know is, am I gonna have to tear up my $22,000 worth of turf to put down gravel or bark that I cannot roll across? I can't mow? I'd just like an answer. Am I out $22,000 or does the House bill outrule the city?
We don't give answers during this session, but one of our staff members will get your contact information and we will be sure to get with you to discuss your special circumstance. Thank you, sir.
Next will be Lori Wyke, followed by Art Brunner, and then Jeff Novak. Lori is here in person.
Good evening, City Council members and Mayor Mendenhall. My name is Lori Wyke, and I'm a resident of Salt Lake City District 5. I am very glad to see that there will be significant city involvement in the development agreement. Thank you. I am, however, concerned that the participation agreement's required public asset plan is lacking in substantive information. The information it provides about public assets is a bit like the evidence of the dog that barked in the night. The dog didn't bark, and the public asset plan currently has no plan for public assets. In a case where it may not be possible to provide, quote, detailed and specific information, SB 272's language still requires that the public asset plan, quote, provides a list of specific goals, planned outcomes, and timelines for achieving those goals and outcomes. Those items are missing. The statement of an intention to identify plans and processes does not constitute specific goals, planned outcomes, and timelines with regard to potential modifications, renovations, or use scenarios for existing buildings and public assets located within the project area, all of which are requirements of the public asset plan. Why is this important? Because you are voting on a plan with significant missing information, and this missing information about public assets would relate specifically to plans that may involve the highly controversial and deeply unpopular possible destruction of our city's world-class concert hall, Abravanel Hall. My second concern relates to the newly released 100-acre project area. I understand the tax money will only be spent in the 3 primary blocks, but I'm still concerned about implications for the other 7 blocks. What can happen to private property within the project area? As City Attorney Lewis said on April 16th, the law does not require private property owner consent. I'd like to understand more about this. Finally, I am concerned that so many of the public benefits are being funded not by the revitalization tax itself, but by a separate and additional ticket tax. However, I am very happy to see those public benefits in the plan and would like to see more, including commitments to Abravanel Hall, Umoka, and more explicit commitments to affordable housing. Thank you.
Next will be Art Brunner, followed by Jeff Novak, and then Ron Nishijima. Art is here in person.
Art?
Hi, my name's Art Bruner. I'm owner of Standard Oil Mill Company Recycling. I have picked up Salt Lake City scrap for the last 40 years. I have won all 8 bids inside that 40-year time. The contract goes for 5 years. This year, I was not. Anyway, my contract ran out a year ago last October, and Claudia Sunbeck from the purchasing department called and asked me if I would continue picking up the scrap. I said, sure, that's no problem. I'll just keep doing it until you get the next contract out. And this has been a year and a half ago. And then all of a sudden, I get a call from the water department telling me to come pick up my containers. And because I didn't win the contract, and I said, I didn't receive a contract. I've been doing this for 40 years for the city. I have no complaints from any of the departments. And all of a sudden, I don't get included on the bid list. And apparently, I never heard a thing about it from anybody. I called Carl Harwood, who's the head of it. He says, well, we haven't put out the bid yet. I said, Carl, you're lying. They told me to come pick up my containers because the bid had been awarded already. And I called him a liar, right? And I says, but anyway, nobody at the purchasing department will tell me why I wasn't included on this bid. After having it for 40 years, and I don't understand this at all. Why I didn't get included, notified, or nothing. And I haven't got one complaint against me. I've paid all my bills. I've paid up everything, done everything the contract specified for the last 40 years. And I haven't got one complaint from any department. And why I did not get contacted for this bid, I have no idea. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Sir, would you mind checking in with one of our staff members? Would you check in with our staff members so we can have information? Staff, this gentleman back here will help you.
Next will be Jeff Novak, followed by Ron Nishijima, and then Mary Allison Sutinas. Jeff is here in person.
Hi, council people. I'm not here to ask for a darn thing. No money at all. I'm one of those payer guys. I own a property, 70 Boulevard Gardens. My partner and I refurbished a 100-year-old house, and it's just a gorgeous neighborhood. If you've ever been there, please visit. I wanted to share an experience I had on 4th of July. We're kind of living the dream that y'all are fantasizing about with this new project where the ballpark is a half a mile away. So we get out and we walk to the Chinese restaurant and have dinner, and our neighbors are walking on the sidewalk, and we go to the ball game. Amazing, best ballpark, minor league ballpark in the nation. Of course, y'all have been there. You see the view of the mountains. Spectacular fireworks, packed, absolutely sold out. Going to be sold out again on July 24th. Wonderful night. Everybody had a great time. And you're right, the majority of people, other than us walkers, because we're locals, I am Fair Park area, we're walking and people are leaving and they're just heading straight for the freeway and going home. But what a big opportunity we missed, because right there on Main between 1300 and or Main Street and 1300 on in front of the ballpark, people are getting out at 10:30. They're starving. There's one guy was grilling hot dogs. It was to die for, but there were so many hundreds of people you really couldn't slow down. If you were to block that off at the next Bees game, put some vendor trucks in there, a few tables, man, I mean, it would just check off a lot of boxes. Cut the traffic down there, and like I said, we walked the whole time. It was a beautiful night, and we sure enjoyed that. And it makes us sick to think that it's going to be closed. What are you guys going to do with that? We got a new $1 billion toy, evidently you're approving out there and on the other side of the tracks. Meanwhile, in the ballpark, we're going to have an empty property, and we really need to know that we're going to get some love.
We're always happy to hear from you in written form if you have more. Thank you.
Next will be Ron Nishijima, followed by Mary Allison Sutinas, and then Troy Wantambi. Ron is here in person.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Aramaki, and my comments are from my dad, who's here, He's right here in the white shirt, but he'd like me to read his comments for him. My name is Ron Nishijima, and 90 years ago, I was born in Los Angeles. My dad was also born in California, and our family was sent to the Colorado internment camp during World War II. After being detained there for 3 years, we moved to Salt Lake City to start over. At that time, Japan was a busy area. I've been a member of the Japanese Church of Christ for more than 60 years. In that time, the area has changed and more changes are ahead. The participation agreement includes efforts to recognize Japantown Street and to inform the Japanese Church of Christ and the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple of the development. The changes will start this year and continue for 10 years. Remodeling the Delta Center, a hotel, a residential tower, restaurants, bars, big signs, changes to the roads, and parking garage are in the plan. I'm worried that all of the construction will be disruptive to the Japanese Church of Christ and to the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple. And please note that the Japanese Church of Christ allows 2 other churches to use its facilities, the Anchored in Christ Tongan Free Wesleyan Church of America and the Kachin Trinity Church. Please coordinate the building and road construction schedules. Consider our religious services, our church meetings, and our community events. I want to be able to access my church. I know that alcohol laws are not set by the city, but House Bill 548 was passed in partnership with SB 272. It gives special authority for alcohol sales from 400 West to 100 West and South Temple to 100 South, even though the Japanese Church of Christ is within these 3 blocks.
We would love to see the rest of those comments in written form if possible.
Next will be Mary Allison Sutines, followed by Troy Watanabe, and then Brent Koga. Mary, you may now unmute.
Hi, everyone. I'm District 3, and tonight I'd like to speak on the genocide of Palestinians that not only Israel is responsible for, but that Salt Lake City and the state of Utah is also responsible for. I'd like to talk that, this week the Lancet, an independent, international, peer-reviewed medical journal, published Counting the Dead in Gaza, Difficult but Essential. And in this article, they quote, apply a conservative estimate of 4 indirect deaths per 1 direct death to the 37,396 deaths reported, estimating 186,000 or more deaths could be attributable to the current conflict in Gaza. And this would translate to 7.9% of the total population in the Gaza Strip, end quote. And this is the current conservative estimate. At the very low end, 7.9% of Gazans have been murdered. And that number grows. It's already out of date because we refuse to hold ourselves responsible for this genocide. We paid for these devastating numbers. I am responsible because this genocide is only possible with my tax dollars. And this Lancet article would not exist without the US. And so we must cut all ties from Israel. And City Council's lack of action tells me that you do not care if genocide happens. But I care, and my community cares. And so that makes us at odds. And that's all. Thank you.
Next will be Troy Watanabe, followed by Brent Koga, and then Donna Johnson. Troy is here in person.
Thank you. Troy Watanabe. I have served with the Japanese Community Preservation Committee, and I'm currently serving as the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple president. I want to thank the mayor, the Salt Lake City Council members, and especially all their staffs. We've all seen each other for the last how many months and weeks, and you guys have all worked hard, and we really appreciate everything you've done for us with this participation agreement. I want to thank you for the inclusion of working to have meetings between SEG, the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple, and the Japanese Church of Christ. The participation agreement requires meetings twice per year for the first 36 months. I'd like to Maybe ask, since we have 30 days, right, that we work on the meeting frequency and the nature of these meetings. I will want to request that, one, that the meetings be more frequent. The speed of the creation of the participation agreement and the proposed construction timeline demonstrate that the decisions can be made real quickly. And two, the stated purpose of the meetings is for the Smith Entertainment Group to inform the church designees of the project. We request the purpose of the meetings are to engage in meaningful dialogue for the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple and the Japanese Church of Christ. Thank you.
Next will be Brent Koga, followed by Donna Johnson, and then Aaron David. Brent is here in person.
Hi, my name's Brent Koga. I'm a member of the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple, and I've been involved in all of this since the time that they built the Salt Palace expansion. So my first thought is I wanted to express thanks and that we're grateful for everything that has been done so far to recognize Japantown and to keep that in your thoughts. So thank you, Mayor, thank you, Council, thank you, Attorney, thank you, SEG, because we've been listened to so far. So I do appreciate that very much. But I think there's still more to ask for. To keep the functionality and the viability of the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple and the Japanese Church of Christ. One of the asks would be parking. So I know that in the participation agreement, it showed 500 stalls being added onto the southwest corner of the Delta Center. And it doesn't designate whether they're public or private parking either. So if it's private parking, it doesn't help the public at all. And if you're going to bring in 15,000 people into the Delta Center, sarcastically, that's, if it's public parking, that's 30 people per car to accommodate those people. So I think that the parking needs to be addressed because that also will address the functionality of the two religious organizations. And so I know that I don't understand the way government works. Uh-oh, I'm running out of time. So, but thank you for your time and appreciation, and we appreciate what's been done for the job.
Next will be Donna Johnson, followed by Aaron David, and then Jay Larson. Donna, you may now unmute.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank the mayor and the city council and everyone who behind the scenes who did all the work that's brought us to this point with this project. As the process continues, I'd simply like to say that there are some things that once done can never be undone. There are some actions once taken that can never be untaken. And I believe that the raising of Abravanel Hall is one such action. Like the beautiful building where this meeting is being held tonight, it's irreplaceable. It's unique. It is part of what makes our sparkling cityscape someplace that so many people love to live and other people love to visit. I believe that creative, caring, intelligent, dedicated members of Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and Smith Entertainment Group working together, putting their heads together, can find a way to preserve and upgrade this magnificent, one-of-a-kind architectural, acoustic, aesthetic, and cultural gem. And I urge you, no, that's not strong enough. I implore you to find a way to do it. Thank you very much.
Next will be Aaron David, followed by Jay Larson, and then Rosalie McMillan. Aaron is here in person.
Aaron? It appears Aaron has left.
Next will be Jay Larson, followed by Rosalie McMillan, and then Marissa Eng.
Whew. I have so many things to say. First of all, I just want to, my name is Jay Larson. Sarah Woolsey called in. If she's listening, I I think I'd like to reconnect with her. I hang out at the Liberty Senior Center. I also agree with the gal that talked about genocide in the Gaza. Yeah, we need to stop sending so much money to Israel and letting them get away with genocide. Anyway, I came here to talk about people waiting forever to make a turn so they can move over into the far lanes. A perfect example is out here on State Street. People waiting, holding traffic up in the turn lane behind them so they can move over, turn in, and get into the Calvin Rampton building. I see that all the time, but I see it all over the place. I even saw a driver's ed, a student driver, a black car said student driver, and that person did it. Whoever that driver instructor is, there needs to be some evaluation there. Let's see. I would like to see something to do about parking and access so that more people can access this building here. I'd love to see just closing off 2nd East and digging up, put some underground parking under there. I even love to see the underground parking this way, but it'd probably wipe out all the big roots of those huge trees, so that's probably not a possibility. But yeah, we need to dig up 2nd East and wow, we'll get 10 seconds left. Okay, thanks.
Next will be Rosalie McMillan, followed by Marissa Eng, and then N Canada. Rosalie is here in person.
My name is Rosalie Lund McMillan. I'm a lifelong Utahn. My family has lived in Utah for generations. I come from a very musical and artistic family, which is not uncommon in Utah. The arts are deeply embedded in our Utah culture and have been for generations. The National Endowment for the Arts ranks Utah #1 in the nation for live participation in the arts. I believe the greatest catalyst for the explosive growth of the arts in Utah was the creation of Abravanel Hall. Our relatively small community voted to raise the funds to build a world-class concert hall. It was the greatest hall in the West. People traveled from all over the country to come. It was designed by the acoustic genius who designed the famous Avery Fisher Hall in New York. I've been told it's one of the top 3 acoustical halls on the planet. When you have a world-class hall, you are able to host world-class music. My family got to meet Yo-Yo Ma and help him name his cello. I got to meet Itzhak Perlman. I got to hear Jesse Norman sing in person. I had the opportunity to be mentored by the great Joseph Silverstein. Would any of this have happened if we didn't have Abravanel Hall? Absolutely not. This world-class hall attracted world-class talent, which then brought even more talent and extraordinary teachers into our community. The existence of Abravanel Hall has directly affected the trajectory of my life and the lives of many others. We didn't have to fly to New York City or the great capitals of Europe in order to be exposed to the world's greatest music and musicians. We had it right on our doorstep in our hometown. Abravanel Hall was brand new when I was a little girl. I remember looking up at the chandeliers at age 7, deciding, I want to be a musician. I want to play on that stage one day. I'd like to see my children play on that stage one day. I'd like to see my grandchildren play on that stage one day. Please preserve our glorious heritage. Please preserve our beautiful Abravanel Hall. I also wanted to say, there are hundreds of us that were in the first Youth Guild, and many of us grew up to be professionals, YouTube record breakers, Grammy-nominated people. All of us went to Abravanel Hall for world-class music as kids.
Time. Next will be Marissa Eng, followed by N Canada, and then Laura Hawk. Marissa's here in person.
Good evening, Mayor Mendenhall, City Council members, and staff. Thank you for the time. My name is Marissa Eng, and I'm a member of the SLC Next Gen JA Group and the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple Board. And I first wanted to just thank each and every one of you, as others have done already, for continuing to listen to us, to advocate, and for the commitment to preserving and revitalizing Japantown. It was very heartening to see that Japantown was included in the participation agreement with the $5 million earmarked for revitalization efforts, and for working with us to be included in the planning and development conversations to come. It feels like a step in the right direction. And while it is a positive step forward, it also probably felt like a sprint. But I know this process will be a marathon, and there is still a long road ahead to work out the details. I want to acknowledge that after reading through the agreement, I am still cautious, and there are still several concerns that you have recognized that I want to ensure and are considered in the process as it continues with you, SCG, the county, and state. And as others have mentioned, I think continuing the conversations with the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple and Japanese Church of Christ are welcomed and encouraged more than twice a year, and having ongoing dialogues and partnerships post-development as well. I also want to ensure that we preserve the temple, church, and garden that is there today, and the daily functions and annual festival operations, given potential construction and additional traffic, and the concerns around parking and accessibility for those festivals. Lastly, I hope that we can...
We'll be happy to have your comments in written form.
Next will be N Canada, followed by Laura Hawk, and then Taylor Williams. And you may now unmute.
Hi, two-part comment. First part I forgot to mention during CIP is that one thing I've noticed in the few years I've been living in Salt Lake has been the lack of livable spaces in the summer. And I just want to highlight that, because of Indigenous genocide and European colonists ignoring the local population of Turtle Island and trying to turn it into a mini Europe, we've ignored the local biosphere. And in that ignoring, we've kind of made ourselves into a heat desert and are unable to be outside during the summer. A lot of Middle Eastern countries I just wanted to highlight, they'll have really cool outdoor canopies. For instance, I forget the name of it, one second. The Medina Haram Piazza shading umbrellas in Saudi Arabia. So I think that's something we should start taking seriously. And even on the 9 line, which I love walking down, there's no shade and the trees are going to take too long to grow. So we need to make some sort of shade there. Mary Allison already commented on the Lancet study, so I won't belabor that point. But I think as a local Palestinian American, it has been very hard to see the continued silence and, just even at a local level in the genocide, as the numbers creep up to almost 10% of the population of Gaza murdered. I think that, with the Olympics coming and Israel going to be represented in the Olympics, that's very political. And, us allowing an international body that condones Israel's actions by allowing them to stay in the Olympics, unlike Russia, tells me a lot about y'all's judgment and about y'all's support of Palestinian Americans in our local community.
Next will be Laura Hawk, followed by Taylor Williams, and then Roger Borchett. Laura is here in person.
Good evening. My name is Laura Hawk, and I live in Salt Lake City. Already there's skepticism among Salt Lake City residents pertaining a 0.5% sales tax increase to fund a sports entertainment center. The real question is, do we as residents who live in Salt Lake City have a public vote on this pressing proposal? According to the Better Cities Projects, it's hard to find anything that economists agree about more than the economic fertility of municipal government subsidizing sports stadiums. The economists' evidence compiled over decades is crystal clear. Sports stadiums don't create local economic growth. An astonishing 83% of renowned Nobel Peace Prize-winning economists agree that subsidized sports stadiums are unprofitable and cost taxpayers more than any benefits they might receive. If the average stadium generates $145 million a year, it's extremely unfortunate that the revenue does not go back into the local community, especially when we are funding the construction. $900 million of our hardworking tax dollars should be allocated to fixing our existing infrastructure, saving our Great Salt Lake, addressing the poor air quality, homelessness, affordable housing, and education. Do the right thing for Utah. This affects everyone, including our visitors. Even if Ryan Smith is the alleged billionaire he claims to be, research shows spending tax dollars on building sports stadiums is a bad idea. Thank you for your time.
Next will be Taylor Williams, followed by Roger Borknicht, followed by Ksenia Konasiba. Taylor's here in person.
Like Councilmember Mono, I've also been thinking about my father who passed away a number of years ago, so I can commiserate with that. My father owned the Subway sandwich shop that is a block north of the Delta Center, and he owned it for many, many years. Some of you may have even eaten once upon a time. In his heart, my father was an entrepreneur. He recognized that if he was a good, savvy businessman and he worked hard, he could make a profit. He also accepted the risk of being a businessman, and he had that risk every single day. Some years he did very well, and some years he struggled. Eventually, he sold his business, and it has since been torn down and replaced with housing that I saw recently. Now, whether his business was struggling or whether it was strong, one thing my father never advocated for was the government subsidizing his success and possible expansion or his failure. He recognized the risk of being a business owner and the profit rested squarely on his shoulders. He didn't believe it was the business of the city to cover his costs. I don't know how we can make a just and equitable society when the government decides that they will pay for some businesses, but not for others. I think about the message that this vote sends to businesses and owners and to residents. On one hand, if you're a billionaire who can afford lobbyists and make promises, you can get $900 million in taxpayer funding, much of that coming from those who can at least afford to pay it. On the other hand, if you're a small business owner or you're just a mom and pop shop, you're largely on your own. I don't think that this creates the just and equitable society that we're all trying to create in our city. This vote sends the message that we do not have an equal playing field, but that we live in a two-tiered system. Second, I will advocate the economic data that was just cited. There is nothing that is more abundantly clear and agreed upon by leading economists that these stadium subsidies do not produce the economic desires. I fully endorse your guys' desire to help your city, but I don't believe this is the path forward. Thank you.
Next will be Roger Borjanic, followed by Ksenia Konasiba, and then Brandon Jean-Pierre. Roger's here in person.
Thank you. This district development proposal from private interests, by the way, are billionaires for a sports entertainment, culture, and convention district incorporating regulation for all properties in a 100-acre area from the Salt Palace west to Gateway, and asking for public subsidy for development of their entertainment center strikes me as Urban Renewal 2024. Height limits. I believe that we can be a great city and vibrant downtown without having to scrape the sky, but encourage the activity at the ground and in buildings which maintain human scale in both the micro and macro scales. Our mountains are majestic enough, and we can keep our taller buildings at a human perceptual scale without craning our necks. Illuminated digital and electronic signs and billboards play prominently in SEG's proposal and create a vision of a circus of massive electronic billboards throughout the district, except, as the proposal states, they will be screened from, quote, important religious buildings. Circulation and transportation. A key question we must ask of events and activities that are designed to attract tens of thousands of people at a time is how many people will arrive by walk, bike, or transit and not bringing their cars with them. It is astounding that the transportation study that was included in the proposal, 69 pages out of 136, has no mention of bikes, no mention of transit, and I believe that this proposal is the public funding requested from all taxpayers in the city to pay additional 0.5% on their sales tax. Thank you.
Next will be...
Thank you, sir.
Ksenia Konosiva, followed by Brandon Jean-Pierre, and then Christine Aramaki. Ksenia is here in person.
Hi, Ksenia Knazova with the Nomad Alliance yet again. And I have to say, I'm so disappointed. You have heard hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have spoken out against this collaboration or whatever it is. And again, hockey arenas do not increase foot traffic to nearby businesses, and arenas are proven to only shift economic spending, not create new spending. We are in the largest inflation crisis, affordable housing crisis, experiencing right now. We have thousands of people on our city's streets. How are people going to spend an extra $200 of discretionary income they do not have on taxes when people I know could never even afford a game, including me? Other than that, I want to say that today we partnered with the Showers of Hope, Utah, to launch the first mobile shower trailer in Utah today. And I want to say thank you guys again for appropriating $500,000 towards a hygiene solution, bathrooms, showers, laundry, I hope. And I ask you, Mayor Mendenhall, to please follow through and let's make something big and brave and beautiful happen in our city for not just the billionaires, but also the people that may not be able to vote for you because they can't get to the polling place or because a meal today is more important and it's all they can do. So thank you all for pushing forward and doing something really brave. I ask you guys to keep going. I haven't heard much about what that might look like. I do love the concept of using 3 UTA buses, one for mobile showers, one for bathrooms, and one for laundry, and pushing through that. $500,000 can go a long way. The shower we launched today was $1,000, and 15 people showered. It's beautiful and amazing, and we serve 2 locations. So if we can do it, you can. It's grassroots. Thank you.
Next is Brandon Jean-Pierre, followed by Christine Aramaki, and then Scott Johnson. Brandon is here in person.
First up, there's like so many things that you guys do, right? Like the water conservation plan is looking pretty solid. But this recent entertainment district is not one of those things done right. From what I'm hearing so far, it's just a lot of best laid intentions that's about to turn out for the worse. The previous citations of how it's been proven time and time again that sports complexes just don't provide good benefit to the public, so should kind of work something out there. You've already made the vote, so it is what it is, but going forward, we're probably gonna have to revamp that plan going forward. And then as far as the general culture here, I've just caught on what was going on with Bravenel Hall, but as far as the culture here, that seems like it should just be like an unspoken thing, just to leave that thing alone and just leave it as is. That's it for me.
Next will be Christine Aramaki, followed by Scott Johnson. Christine, you may now unmute.
Hello, my name is Christine Aramaki. I am a member of the Japanese Church of Christ in Salt Lake City, Next Gen JA. I want to express my gratitude to City Council for their commitment and attentiveness to addressing the concerns of the Japanese community regarding the revitalization project and the preservation of Japantown. I appreciate the provisions included in the participation agreement that contribute positively to Japantown, the Japanese Church of Christ, and the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple. With the approval of the participation agreement, I remain optimistic that City Council and SEG will maintain their commitment to supporting the 2 churches in Japantown. Furthermore, I trust that City Council and SEG will facilitate rather than impede the churches in their ongoing operations. It is important to acknowledge that the closure of 300 West will block a significant access point to the Japanese church's parking lot, impacting attendance at regular Sunday services and other daily activities. Moreover, both churches are invaluable assets to the city, serving not only as religious institutions, but also as hosts of community events. One such event is the Salt Lake Buddhist Temple's annual Obon Festival, scheduled for this Saturday in the heart of Japantown on 100 South. This festival features homemade delicacies, captivating taiko drum performances, and traditional Bon Odori dancing, all held where we've always had it, right on the street. Obon represents just one of the many festivals organized by the JA community, and I encourage the public to join us and experience the cultural richness that Japantown embodies and offers. Thank you.
And that was the final registered commenter for this item.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. We are now going to move on to unfinished business. The first unfinished business item, I-1, is a resolution for the addendum number 8 to the interlocal agreement with the Utah Transit Authority for Transit Master Plan Frequent Bus Service Routes Implementation. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Council adopt the resolution authorizing addendum number 8 to the interlocal agreement with the Utah Transit Authority.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Our next item is I-2, a resolution for a notice of intention to designate Central Business Improvement Area 25. I'll look for a motion.
Chair, I move that the council adopt the resolution of intention to designate an assessment area for economic promotion activities in downtown over a 3-year period.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Lopez Chavez and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? That passes unanimously. Our next item okay, a commenter who lost connection came back. Can we pause our unfinished business to allow that commenter? That's all right. We're nothing if not flexible. Taylor, is that final commenter available?
That will be Scott Johnson, who should be there in person.
Now, before you hold me in violation of your rules of decorum, that wasn't exactly an obscene gesture. It was the hockey signal for high sticking. And in layperson's terms, high sticking involves swinging a large stick at another player's head. And when it's intended to do harm, that player is ejected and gets a game misconduct. And I believe, my name is Scott Johnson. I'm here speaking as a tax-paying sports fan who believes in fair play, and that's an important part of competitive sports. And SB 272 and your vote tonight do not represent fair play, in my opinion. Rather, they represent high sticking, a serious foul against voters. This entire process has been rushed, ignoring significant issues and developments, like the Supreme Court's Grants Pass versus Johnson decision, released just the day before the draft came out, raising serious questions. I also saw no mention in the participation agreement regarding how the right to assembly and free speech will be protected. The proposed ticket surcharges over 30 years sound good until you consider they would cover 1, not even 2 years of salaries for the two teams' players. So you got to put these things in context. And meanwhile, Smith Entertainment Group walks away with a net over $500 million. This tax also sets a dangerous precedent. If you give this now, the Smiths have been on the record talking about a 30-year mission of their sports team ownership. Guarantee the next owner is going to ask for $2 billion, $3 billion, $4 billion, pile it on. And also, I felt like some of the economic analysis was obviously fast, hasty, and I think it was overly optimistic. I note that it originated from the same U of U business department that infamously overvalued the Pac-12 media rights.
Thank you. We'd be happy to have your comments in written form if you care to submit them. All right, we will return now to item I3, a resolution for the issuance of airport revolving line of credit. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance or periodic incurrence of short-term revolving obligations and refer to the consent agenda to set a date for a hearing on August 13, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. I4, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the First Amendment to the interlocal agreement between Salt Lake City Corporation, the Redevelopment Agency of Salt Lake City, and the Utah Inland Port Authority.
Madam Chair, I move that the council adopt a resolution approving the First Amendment to the interlocal agreement with the Utah Inland Port Authority.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan and a second from Councilmember Pui. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Finally, we'll move to item I5.
Madam Chair, I'm recused from this item.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Mono.
Madam Chair,
Hang on. He's not recused enough yet. Okay.
I move that the council adopt the ordinance approving a $100,000 loan for Goathead LLC from the Economic Development Loan Fund.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries 6 in approval with Councilmember Mono abstaining. This moves us to our consent agenda. Based on our earlier discussion, we're changing our August 20th meeting to August 27th. This means items J7 and J8 will be set for August 27th, 2024. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui, a second from Councilmember Dugan. Sorry, Councilmember Mono did not mean to disenfranchise your vote on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wait,
Any
sorry.
opposed?
Okay, aye.
The motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned.
Did we get? Yeah. Okay. All right.